This blackberry color makes me feel so emo for some reason. Do you get it? I think it's quite fitting for my for how I feel this year. Look what I got. All right, I'm ready. Hi friends, I'm Marie Miliwara. Welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna focus on what kind of smells, or maybe absence of such, really helps us to get into the zone, into the working mode, into the problem-solving mode when we are in the most unusual circumstances. For a lot of people who work from home, they know that in a way you kind of have to develop some kind of zoning, some kind of routine in order to be productive. Some people actually put extra effort into teaching themselves to do work wherever they are, on whatever through whatever mediums or formats that they can afford at the time, which is probably the most precious skill ever to exist. But when it comes to smells, I'll preface this like a small disclaimer. Sometimes absence of smells is much desired in order to allow my mind, at least for me, to focus on the problem at hand. But sometimes a certain friendly association that I associate with work-related pleasures, or certain smells that give me a feeling that I find useful for the working mode of my body, they come really handy. So first things first, I find that the smell of coffee, just to begin with, immediately makes me happy. Be it work, be it like a work day or weekend, the moment I can smell coffee, I feel like I'm ready to get out of bed. This is like a reason to get out of bed sometimes in the absence of any others. I actually don't own a realistic coffee smelling fragrance, and most that I tried that claim to have coffee as a note don't even come close to freshly blended coffee beans. I heard that I think kerosene, there's like an indie brand that supposedly holds the torch when it comes to realistic smell of just freshly grinded coffee beans. Don't own it, haven't tried it, but the one that I do have makes me think of more like a Starbucks smell. So this is like some kind of coffee related, it's like lavender latte kind of smell. And this is Rocha Man. It's a very cheap, affordable perfume, nothing to write home about in terms of packaging. It's original, but is it good? I'm not so sure. But the fragrance itself, despite being marketed toward men, there's nothing gender specific about any fragrances in general, but this one I can easily wear myself. It's a very tightly composed lavender scent with some form of like a coffee syrup or coffee flavor in it, and this probably as close as it gets in my collection and in all of the perfumes that I've smelled that claim to have the note of coffee that I got to it. Actually, I really find this to be a perfect morning scent, especially when you need to pull yourself together and make a plan for the day. This is it for me. Next, the smell of tea. To be honest, I used to be an avid tea drinker, and then this kind of like I got all over. Now I only drink herbal tea. I used to love milk oolong tea, then I loved Earl Grey. I actually still probably, the tea that I will drink, if you give me like a lot of choices, it probably will be Earl Grey with a dash of milk. But when we talk about the refreshing tea scents, I find that the green tea scents have that needed zestiness and kind of refreshing, almost minty quality to them. What prompted me to include the tea scents in this particular selection is the Tea Tonic by Miller Harris. It's a relatively new addition to my fragrance collection, but I already find that among many that I tried from Miller Harris, It's kind of like both least original yet one of the most wearable ones. So here the very zesty lime, bergamot, all of these kind of like refreshing citrusy notes packed with the green tea, that it almost takes it to a point of a kind of pickle juice, or like aromatic pickle juice kind of story. It really depends on your nose and what kind of associations have you formed historically, whether we'll get to the pickled situation or not. I do get there a little bit, but it's undoubtedly very refreshing. It kind of grabs your attention and helps you to wake up. So if you're sleep deprived, if you are kind of battling some kind of fatigue, lack of energy, and you really need that additional kick to help you get into that kind of, okay, let's get going. Like, I have so many errands to run, I have so many things to do. I find that tea tonic definitely reliably delivers like that necessary amount of invigorating zest. However, there are I found a few rather affordable variations on this scent in my collection that you can try. First is probably the cheapest alternative, and they are very close. This is Eau de Gaga by Lady Gaga, celebrity scent. It's meant to be kind of like a refreshing Italian eau de cologne type of formula. And some people do feel green tea here, some people don't. I find that they are dangerously close in olfactory space with tea tonic, though this one gets a little bit more lemony and it kind of loses some of that pickle juice note, or like this effect, and therefore in some ways more wearable, but undeniably the cheapest and the most stylishly wrapped kind of option. I think online you can buy it between like $6 and $15 for the full bottle. So highly recommend Eau de Gaga if you're looking for a green tea kind of zesty lime lemony type of scent and you want quality but you don't want to spend a lot of money, or let's say it's not really your cup of tea most of the time, so you can just spend $10, try the whole kind of like evaluate the whole family of fragrances through this and kind of make your final decision if you want to explore it more or not. And the third option, probably the most feminine, the most floral of them all, would be the Mon Jasmine Noir Le Exquise by Bulgari. So here we get a much more elegant, slightly watery floral version of a jasmine green tea. It's a little bit more subdued, it's a little bit less poignant or punchy than the previous two, the tea tonic or Eau de Gaga, but in a way that's what makes it so well mannered, kind of office appropriate. Here I want to say something. Don't shy away from creating the exact circumstances, outfits, shoes, makeup, hair, and fragrances that you use in the office environment if you are coming from that kind of background, because we're the creatures of habit, we're driven by our environment. And since the Mon Jasmine Noir Le Exquis is so office friendly, it's basically like a white shirt type of scent if you like green tea flavors, that if you ever used it for the office environment, or if you have your other kind of personal favorite, non-intrusive, very politically correct, if you wish, non-offensive, well-mannered, elegant scent that you used to wear to social occasions, wear it at home. The recreating an office environment at home, that's what really will set you up for success in terms of giving you the necessary focus and the necessary energy and even attitude and even facial expressions that you need to to continue your work routine in the new circumstances. So probably the most office-like of them all, if you're looking for something, if you work with people a lot, if you're very sensitive to scents, if you like the green tea idea but you a little bit put kind of like the whole mention of zestiness or invigorating, punchy flavors orders gives you a little bit of a pause, this is probably you, gal. And talking of like perfect office fragrances, I'm only gonna include one here. That's my personal favorite. This is Burberry Rhythm. It's a flanker. I call this like first day at work type of fragrance. It's when you want to make a good impression, but you don't want to be too much. This is a perfect, exquisitely balanced Burberry base. Like they're very signature to the DNA of fragrances in the kind of earlier, the first decade of 2000s, with a lavender note wrapped kind of hidden in it. It's not super lavender centric. If you are iffy about lavender as a central note, this is not it. It's not like screaming of lavender like some other options I could have shown you. But again, this is just such a well-balanced, well-behaved, respectful office scent that I find that since I wore it a lot in office environment, the moment I smell it, I'm in the mood for like, you know, for work. Let's get this shit done. So that's it for me. If you remember any of those that you used to wear, maybe it's been a while, maybe you used to wear something more toward the, like when you took classes at the university or something like that, try to find something, maybe like give it another go, buy it again and see if it really helps you to focus. I find most rose scents a bit much, a bit capricious when it comes to work-related environment. You have to really know and love your roses. I mean, and be confident about wearing what you like. But when it comes to non-obtrusive quality of a fragrance, most rose fragrances I find are very domineering, and they can kind of distract you from your task rather than help you focus on it. But one that I find perfect, especially for meetings where you need to lead and you really need to push the agenda and keep the time going and kind of keep the momentum, is Rose with Basilic by L'Artisan Parfumeur, and it's called Rose Privé. It's a very refreshing green, again slightly zesty type of rose, and the green notes here, the most prominent one is the basilic note. It's kind of unusual combination. I'm more used to rose being paired with patchouli, various kinds of patchouli. Very rarely we get the rose wrapped with aldehydes, sometimes with certain spices, and then there's a whole world of gourmand, sweet and oily roses. But when it comes to refreshing morning roses, we have kind of like wild English rose gardens type of roses, but we don't, I don't really have any favorites among a large variety of morning rose scents, but this. So for me, this is the kind of rose that still has a unique character. It's very niche, and yet it's both invigorating but not sophisticated to a degree when I have to study the scent and not pay attention to what's going on. So for me, this is like the kind of morning rose for the meetings where you need to be uppity, when you need to like keep up the momentum. Love it, love it, love it. Highly recommend. I think you can get this particular one for fairly cheap prices right now online, maybe like even like 40 to 50 bucks. Well worth the purchase if you like green roses, if you like basilic as a note, at least as an idea of it. Another fragrance that I consider to be ideal for meetings, especially remote meetings these days, is, but this one is for serious business, when there's a lot at stake. Maybe you're presenting, maybe you're pitching, maybe you're really trying to get a point across. It might be even maybe a challenging negotiation. So that would be Cabochard by Madame Cré. This is a reformulated version. I think it's been repackaged and reformulated fairly recently, maybe 2018, I might be wrong. And I absolutely love it. When I actually purchased it, it was probably under $30, and it was exquisitely packaged. And the ribbon And the lid, the lalique glass, it's all just so well done. I was kind of shocked for that price, how much pedigree, how much like sort of luxe feeling, put together vibe did it really give me. So it's actually a really good gift for those of you, or for those of your friends who like kind of like Marlene Dietrich style. It's like a skinny chick in a men's suit. It's very dry. It's like a shipper with leather notes. It's the least flirty fragrance that I can find in my collection. Maybe there are a few that are like the antonyms of a flirtation, but this one is especially on point. I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough one. Among many different shippers that you could try, this is the one that's probably the toughest chick in the room. It kind of gives me a little bit of almost cyanide type of feel. It's you know, like the kind of the bitter almond, like amaretto style kind of bitterness, and yet the leather, the dry herbs, the quintessentially time waits for no one kind of attitude is so elegant. Hugely underrated perfume. You have to love leathery and kind of dry and austere scents to enjoy it, but if you do, or if you're curious about what a leathery shipper could be like, Cabochard, quite something to push a point across. This is the perfume that I kind of call a consensus builder. It's when your role in a situation is to be a glue. Make people agree, put everyone in alignment, to be both professional yet warm, but not to the point of people kind of bulldozing all over you with their own agenda. And this is Chapar Musk Malaki. This is the most office-like musk that I've ever seen. I wish what we now call white musks was this. I can't stand white musks. To me, they smell either of laundry detergent, well, that's where it came from, or of something sour, anyway, or plasticky. Not my thing. But here, it's like, imagine a very fine leather wallet. It gives me a little bit of that like thin, exquisitely crafted leather wallet type of vibes. This is the musk that is both very clean, very scrubbed up, very like buttoned up, put together, yet at the same time sensual and comforting. Exactly the kind of attitude you need from a really good people's manager, right? Like both professional but comforting. And this is the vibe that Musk Malaki gives. 100% unisex, can open up beautifully on different types of skins. It's just such a upper management kind of classic to me that I can't imagine any corporate work life without this on the shelf. It's a really good stuff. When it comes to slightly more aggressive, a little bit more dry, a little bit more drilling scent, but still with the touches of leather. This is the flanker that I really like. I'm just gonna briefly mention it because it's not easy to get, but that's the one that I use a lot, is the Touch of Leather by Jill Sander. Jill Sander is a German designer brand that actually made a lot of waves in Europe, even came to the United States at some point. It had enormously successful fragrance line that still has like a generation, a couple of generations of loyal followers. So Jill Sander now, similar to a lot of other brands, it's kind of like overplaying the game of flankers. However, their flankers I do tend to like. So this is the Simply line by Jill Sander, and the flanker is called Touch of Leather. I also have Touch of Mandarin, And both to me smell of oil of mandarin with kind of tobacco, no, not tobacco, more like leathery notes. But this is the one that I would probably use if I needed to do a very concentrated like coding kind of assignment, something that requires you to like pool all of your intellectual power into some kind of project or document or creation for like good 2.5 or 3 hours, because it gives you sustenance. It's a little bit more aggressive than the Musk Malaki, but at the same time it's so elegant that I can't find a single flaw in it. It's very non-obtrusive. It's almost like clothing that gives you a good posture. And that's it for me. Another one that's a little bit more toward that kind of emotion that it gives, that kind of effect, but way more accessible, is Pearls de Lalique by iconic glass manufacturer Lalique. So here we're playing more on various fragrant, aromatic, woody notes. To me, this is the smell of the Crimea in the summer, because there are like a lot of trees there that have exactly that smell. Ah, it's very aromatic, it's very woody, it's very appropriate. If you lightly wear it, it will be one of the most elegant woody scents you've ever encountered. But if you really want to be a little bit more punchy, a little bit more bitter, yeah, a little bit more aggressive, you can be more liberal. But Pearls de Lalique is one of those perfect woody scents for work. In my book, that is very not expensive, very high quality, and again, undoubtedly unisex. And when we're talking about quiet contemplation, sometimes it's not clear what to do. And yet, you know, if you don't put yourself down at the desk for a good 2-3 hour chunk of time, you will not come up with any ideas. So kind of like the perfume that's good for ideation. This is probably the area where I prefer the most quiet, because when you're really staring at the blank page, this is when anything can distract you. Anything. You will be more than happy to distract yourself. So the fragrances for those occasions are either none or Artiste the Architect's Club. I got my decant, I think this is my second one, from Sandbird, and this is basically like slightly powdery, quiet, sophisticated floral. Even floral, it's too much of a word for what it is. It's just so quietly nuanced that it's like quantum noise. It's there, but it's not. It gives you a whiff of something, but it's not there. It's exactly what I find kind of starts spinning your imagination. It kind of gets you out of stupor. It gets you out of numbness without providing a clear directive or a vector, a pre-described notion of what you're supposed to feel or think about. So the Architect's Club to me is the ideal scent for the moments when you need just distraction enough for your senses, so you're not super fidgety, but you don't want anything to force a vision on you. You still need to shape it from nothing. And this process, a very stressful, a very error-prone, very experimental process of trying to shape an idea, trying to find a thread, that's what I find really needs the most quietly supportive fragrances that I have in my collection. And to me, Architect's Club by Artiste is it. And the perfume that I would recommend for aggressive negotiations, for cases when you feel you have to like break down the wall in order to get things done, that would be Black Musk by Mental. It enters the room before you and it's like a fist. I associate it with a Italian leather purse made of a super duper thick black leather. The leather is so thick and the purse is so structured that it feels you can like kill people with it. It's just such a monumental statement. And so is Black Mask by Montal. It is a statement. It's a very linear perfume. It doesn't have much of opening or change. It's kind of like a monochord. You smell it as it is and then just quietly dissipates through time. It's very bold, it's very brazen, and yet it's not sweet like a lot of Montals are. It's not too spicy. Again, it's like a black leather jacket, like a structured thick leather jacket that just makes you look tough, makes you look butch almost. So I love it for the purposes of pulling yourself together for a difficult conversation, for something that you've been procrastinating and not wanting to do for a long time, and just need to kind of like punch yourself in the face and also let's fucking get it done. Just do it. Just do it. This is it. If you need a punch in the face, something that is just a force of nature, and yet it's very, to me, like it's very work-like, because it's not flirty at all. It's very powerful, prominent, forceful. Black Mask. Try it. The last perfume of this selection is gonna be L'Artisan Parfumeur Mon Numero 10. Again, I could have chosen 100, maybe not 100, like a couple of dozen leathery or spicy fragrances, but I do find that gourmands and spicy fragrances, though absolutely can be worn at work, not necessarily help me to be in the work-related mood, but when it comes to those moments, then I want to be reminded that it's not all about the bottom line. It's not all about just achieving the next goal and like getting everything done and being the most efficient. That we absolutely must, if we want to succeed in life, and that includes a career, we must feel every day with the little drops of joy, sprinkle little pleasures here and there, so we maintain our sanity and boost our creativity and keep our mind and body as close as possible to the comfort zone, to the zone of safety and joy. This perfume does it for me, because even though this is a very elegant, very upscale, very kind of like luscious, but again elegant leather perfume, it's like a closeted gourmand, believe it or not. So some people associate Mon Numero 10 with kind of like a new car salon, you know, like a new leather, in the car seats everywhere, and just you sit down in that car and it's like, whoa, that's a new car smell. That's really like makes you feel like, you know, you won a lottery, like you made it in life. Some people say that this is the smell of those kind of like boutiques where they sell expensive accessories, shoes, leather bags, and things like that. And that's why it's specifically that comparison makes me think of those little pretty much innocent indulgences that we sometimes allow ourselves to have when we're at work, especially if you work at, in the office, somewhere in the middle of the city, when you steal those like 10-15 minutes to run to a store and get like the blouse or like the accessory that you always wanted, when you get that dessert even though you have like no sugar at home, you never order like carbs when you go to restaurants with friends, but after especially grueling or successful day, when you feel like, you know what, I hit all the goals, I survived all the meetings, I passed all the reviews, I deserve this. I'm gonna get this, the best, the largest cappuccino they have, and I'm gonna get this cake. Oh yes, I am eating that. And that kind of like almost self-righteous eating that piece of cake for those 10 minutes on the company's dime, like in the middle of your like lunch break or something like that, that makes it so much more enjoyable than just eating a cake with coffee, that it's a whole it's a whole chapter like to our secret lives at a like corporate offices or like as career people. So mod number 10 to me has all of that in this juice, because even though it's clean, leathery, respectful, polite, it has a little bit of the honey-like hedonism kind of weaved into the respectful and upscale type of leathery lusciousness, luxurious leather. It has teeny tiny hints to cinnamon and other sweet gourmand spices that are just thinly weaved into this web of notes. And it's exactly what happens when you like see a colleague at work and they're wearing this like boring cardigan or rather formal and like strict jacket, but you can peek that there's sequins under that jacket. So they're going out tonight. There's something going on. Things are gonna happen tonight. But they work now, so they kind of hide. The pleasures and the frivolities are masked, therefore, so that the the work appropriateness rules are respected. Monomer 10 has that exact quality, that it's very respectful, very up there, very put together, but it's like a closeted, secretive gourmand, like there in the back. All right, that's a wrap. Now I'm turning the questions to you. What kind of fragrances do you find the most supportive and appropriate when you're trying to get work done? For what kind of situations do you find which fragrances work the best? And what are the situations where you genuinely think that fragrances just should not be there? I'm sure the absence of smells, of any strong smells, is in a way an experience in itself. And for those of us who've been really into olfactory design and really have large and vast perfume collections, every once in a while, at least I can attest to myself, I really do appreciate almost like Asian minimalism when it comes to olfactory design of spaces. I really sometimes know fragrance is better than any fragrance in the world. And that almost makes me appreciate applying a fragrance that much more later. So no fragrance is not off the table. I just want to know what you think about this question of fragrances for career, fragrances at work, fragrances in the office, fragrances for working from home. Please let me know. I'll be waiting for your comments, and I'll see you in the next video.